Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 26 today for the Chinese Grand Prix in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. That was uploaded 2 days ago. From now on, the series won't be uploading every single day concretely. There will be a few gaps here and there now as I try and explore other videos. Obviously, you may have seen the experiment video we did. We're trying to see what happens when you go bankrupt in F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, so hopefully you guys understand that. We did that last year as well. Actually, a lot earlier last year on F1 2019. We stopped doing daily uploads of the series, like pretty much halfway through Season 1. So we've gone a lot longer into the series doing daily, but now looking to explore our kind of one-off videos and just doing other things amongst, obviously, My Team Career, which will still be the staple of the channel, of course. And like I said, there'll still be a good minimum, at least 4 to 5 episodes every single week. But we kick things off for this episode, looking at our teammate. Obviously, Sainz had a massive crash last episode. If you did watch that one, was the craziest race we've had to date, really, at Vietnam. And after that crash, Sainz a little bit lower rated than he used to be. He's not the same 94 Sainz we knew before. So using that to kind of, justify actually training him up a little bit more and trying to maintain his high stature, basically. And we can't forget, we need to actually keep on doing that as we go on through, because the personnel is going to boost him, but we need to keep on actually actively training him to keep him up. And also, races like last one probably didn't help in terms of denting his stats a little bit, so I don't suspect Sainz will be maybe at his A game this episode, coming off the back of that one, which was obviously, yeah, I still to this day I still don't know. That was the most mental crash ever, and then the entire kind of how that entire race panned out with the safety car and whatnot, and still in disbelief the DRS got stuck open. So if you didn't watch that one, I implore you to go do so. Very, very exciting episode, and of course it was our, spoiler alert, first time on the podium, so maybe this is now the start of us becoming podium regulars. I don't know, but at the moment we're looking through at maybe where to spend our money, because we've got a little bit of money to spare for maybe one HQ upgrade here. So looking at everything, I think aero is going to be quite important. Of course, we have delved into the chassis quite a fair bit at the start of the season, and we're focusing on the engine power as well as of late with the engine upgrades. But eventually, once we get those done, I think we're going to keep on looking at aero in terms of not only the downforce, but reducing the drag, but also adding downforce, which will mean I can run lower wings anyway, in theory, obviously, because the overall downforce is higher. Therefore, I can run lower wings and still have the same sort of, cornering speed, basically, and also benefit from lower wings, obviously, in a straight line. So, kind of looking at that as the best way to go about things. So, we invested in the aero of the fabrication, so we can do more simultaneous parts. But in terms of the actual R&D upgrades, what we're going to do is their weight redistribution, a major one, in fact. So, that's going to hopefully help the low speed cornering of the car and that kind of sniffness that's still kind of been there since the start of this season, especially definitely from where it was in Season 1. So going through the activity timeline then towards the Chinese Grand Prix, and thankfully every single upgrade has come in. The major drag reduction update and also that major weight redistribution. So that's a massive win for us in terms of all those coming in. So that'll leap us towards near enough level pegging with Ferrari, I think, overall, because on the chassis front now, we're very, very strong. Aero, we're the 4th best team on the grid. Chassis-wise, we're the 2nd best now, so we've really made some huge gains here, and engine-wise, of course, as well, we're up into P4. Ferrari improving still a little bit, so they kind of, I thought we could maybe overtake them, but no, they still kept steady, but McLaren there in 2nd place as well, but we've made some really, really decent progress, but though that was a massive, I honestly thought the chassis upgrade was going to fail on us, so I didn't really think much of it, but because it's come in, as we go on through to the race weekend, then when the upgrades get confirmed and we can actually physically see the difference on the R&D chart, you can see we're 3rd place still, but we're literally level pegging with Ferrari on paper there. We've gotten away a little bit from that gaggle of cars of McLaren, Red Bull, and Racing Point, and you can see it's very subtle because AlphaTauri's colour on the line is so dark, but AlphaTauri have actually made some massive gains, and they've pretty much got to where Racing Point are. So you've almost got, it's kind of Formula A and Formula B with Mercedes and the rest of us, but then within that, you've got kind of ourselves and Ferrari, then a little gap, and then you've got McLaren, Red Bull, Racing Point, and AlphaTauri now, all kind of converging in the same sort of area, then a bit of a gap to Alfa Romeo, just ahead of Haas, and then a bit of a further gap to Williams, of course. So, interesting times. That midfield fight will come even stronger. Of course, we're not getting away from that completely, because we're still kind of going to be in the mix of that. You've seen it's been so close that literal one or two tenths of a mistake or whatever could put us down the order. So so I need to be careful about that, but it's really cool to see that that fight's going to get even closer. Just the hope is that all of us can catch up to Mercedes. That'd be the dream eventually towards the end of the season. But we're transitioning then with that in towards qualifying for the Chinese GP, and having seen that R&D chart, you know, maybe there's going to be some big expectations for what we can do this race weekend. You know, we had our first podium last race, and now, in theory, relative to the other cars, especially Ferrari, our cars got better. So, you know, we managed a podium then. Could we manage a podium here at the Chinese GP? It was, of course, the place for our very first point ever as a team last season in Season 1. We had to wait till China to score our first point. So, happy hunting ground in that kind of sense. I know it's only one season of history, but still happy hunting ground. So, maybe we can do well. In Q1, we get our way through. It was a little bit odd to be so far back from Sainz there. He's up in P2, a good second ahead of me, but I guess that's just the Q1, kind of, you know, getting used to the circuit, kind of getting up to speed, but, you know, the important thing is we get through into Q2. Having said that, though, getting into Q2 wasn't much of a delight straight off the bat, because there's a forecast for rain in this session, which I didn't even see in any of the kind of emails previous to the race weekend starting, but yeah, there's some rain now in Q2. It looks like it'll get drier then for Q3, because it says it's going to be sunny in like 10 to 15 minutes time, so that'll be pretty much once Q2 is done. So it's going to have to be intermediates, and so this is a little bit hairy. Again, like Vietnam, a little bit, you know, unknown if we can make it through into Q3, of course, not my favourite conditions, and also you just never know really with AI, sometimes they can just pull it out of the bag. So we filled up the car with enough fuel for 2 consecutive laps, so the first lap was pretty poor, I felt, in Sector 1, especially a lot of understeer, even through there, the last corner you can see, just really missed the apex completely, and even on the rear end, the rear wheels were spinning up even in 4th gear in some of the corners, especially the hairpin at the end of Sector 3, but we come through now for a second run, straight after the first one. You can see already gaining just about a 10th, but then losing it again, and it's kind of a yo-yo, trying to find that grip and finding the momentum of actually gaining that time and keeping it. As we get towards Sector 3, we've gained a good 3/10 just on the exit of that corner of the left-handed, though. We were 2/10 up. Now we're nearly a second up as we enter, so you can see how slow we must have been on that first lap. Through the second lap now, at the end, a little bit wide, using the curbs, but across the line, 1.4 seconds gain there, up into P6, a much better second lap, and that will do it for us and get us through into top 10 shootout. But you can see how close it was, literally 100th of a second covering the top 6 positions in qualifying. That is so close. Good to see in terms of the fight. Don't know, I doubt it'll be that close in the dry come Q3, but it's really good to see it was that close and competitive. And even though we've improved a lot, it looks like Red Bull have come to China, and like they were at Vietnam, actually, they look a lot more competitive than they have been in the previous races. And it's a bit of a weird one here that AlphaTauri, like we mentioned, they brought upgrades and they pretty much matched where McLaren and Racing Point were on the R&D chart. They're the ones in the Q3 session. Both Racing Point cars and both McLarens knocked out, and Perez and Gasly find themselves very high up there. So the dynamic of the midfield shifting again, and you've got AlphaTauri now maybe being the ones that are going to be pressurising the likes of, well, their sister team, their bigger sister team, Red Bull and Ferrari and ourselves, rather than Racing Point and McLaren, who are falling away a little bit at this race weekend as we now move through into the top 10 shootout. All dry again, although doom and gloom, of course, and overcast from that rain we saw in Q2. So at the moment, it was also quite damp, I must say, at the start of this session. We're about halfway through. I've gone out about 5 minutes into the session, but everyone went out earlier than me, and it was still a little bit damp, so that's why I waited. But because of that, I think all their lap times are quite slow. So as we go across the line, we're actually on provisional pole as it stands, but don't get too excited, because by the time we get through to the end of the session, 15 seconds to go. It's now fully sunny. The track's really dried out, and it's getting faster and faster as we're going through this session. And you can see that clearly by me getting about a 10th through there. Although, to be fair, my lap time was pretty decent on that first run. And, of course, I said it when it wasn't damp, where you can see now Perez is on provisional pole. Now it's going to be, we're down to P8. Vettel's right up there. Perez there. At the moment, I feel like the Mercedes guys are back where they should be. So everyone's improved vastly. We only improved by a mere few hundredths, showing how good our first lap time was for us. And also, you know, obviously, I went out when it was a lot drier in that first run, and it's only good enough for P7, Sainz down in P9. So very baffling. In the race where we've upgraded enough to be level with Ferrari, it's kind of almost reverted back to how it was in season 1, the top 3 teams. You've got a whole kind of mixture of Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull there. So, yeah, very baffling. I don't think this tells the full story. I feel like I could have gone a little bit quicker. Definitely Sainz could have as well. I think the rain affecting the start of that session did change things a little bit. And I'm very surprised to see Perez out-qualifying Sainz in the AlphaTauri. So, I don't think this is where we truly are. I think there's more to come in the race. We've got better race pace to at least beat. I think we should be able to close up to Red Bull. We have been doing this entire season, and obviously Ferrari's the kind of next team we're yet to fully crack, as they have been quite quick when we've been fighting them. But of course we held off Leclerc and Verstappen last race. Could we try and attack them again in this one? Let's find out. Let's go to the grid and see what we can do on Sunday.
It's time to find out which driver is up to the task of claiming the Chinese Grand Prix. We're here in Shanghai. We start a lap here at Shanghai with the long, difficult right-handers of turns 1 and 2, the first of 16 corners that make up this 3.3-mile circuit. The incredibly long back straight provides the best passing opportunity of the lap, with speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour before the braking zone of turn 14. Anthony Davidson joins me again for the race today. Can I get your take on Ferrari? We have a number of changes to the aerodynamic regulations this year, and the sides haven't looked good for them so far in terms of getting to grips with those changes.
It doesn't look promising for them so far. And if the new regs have hit them as hard as we think, well, I suspect they may need a few late nights at the factory to get back on track.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Ricciardo, Bottas, Max Verstappen, and Vettel, the owner driver, Perez, Sainz, and Pierre Gasly, Albon, Ocon, Lance Stroll, and Norris, Kvyat, Russell, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Nobuharu Matsushita, Grosjean, Aitken, Latifi, and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
So race strategy-wise, it's going to be a one-stop for us. We can obviously choose a free choice of tyre, as everyone can, because everyone qualified in Q2 on intermediate. So everyone up and down the grid will have a free choice. So I'm pretty sure every person here is going to be doing this one-stop strategy from the mediums to the hards. It's just the best way to go about it, especially here at China, where the soft tyre wears out so quickly. You can see on that bottom strategy. So everything will be going on this one. So there won't be much of a difference there and an advantage we're going to gain this time, so it will just purely be about how we do in the opening few laps and then basically how we settle down and how the race pace is. So there's nowhere to hide really in this Grand Prix. So this is the real testament of this will be the real test of where we are actually. Is that R&D graph lying a bit? Was that quality pace really where we are? Let's find out. Obviously we had a great race last time. I want to try and carry on that momentum, but we have some work to do from P7 as we now rev up for 5 red lights for round number 4 of this season number 2 of our My Team career at the Chinese Grand Prix at Shanghai. Fire lights are out and we're underway, and it's a bit of a shaky start for a slow one actually in comparison to the cars ahead of us. Verstappen and Vettel box us in somewhat on the left hand side. We're going to try and go the long way around and see if we can maybe just cheekily get it through. We're 3 wide now and trying to jockey for position, but in the end Verstappen will squeeze us out as we hit his rear tyre, and the AlphaTauri of Gasly has made a real good getaway there. He was behind my teammate and Perez, and he's actually overtaken both of them and overtaken me, so 3 moves there for Gasly in the opening sector. We dive back down the inside of the Frenchman though, and it's now 2 by 2, myself versus Gasly, Vettel v Verstappen, and up ahead Ricciardo v Valtteri Bottas, and Ricciardo in the Red Bull flying here, trying to go around the outside of the next right hand. He'll turn to the inside for the next double left, but looks like Bottas may just have that. No, the Aussie man keeps his foot in on the right pedal. Meanwhile Hamilton streaks away in the lead then, as he kind of needs to for this championship fight, with Bottas winning the first 3 races, Leclerc in second, and Ricciardo and Bottas are still side by side. Vettel and Gasly now are side by side. Gasly tries to go around the outside. Vettel's lost the rear end, and we're going to go to the inside of the German there. Fine margins. Such a weird place to make it nearly 3 wide and overtake down the inside there, but made it work. The wobble from the Ferrari was massive. We got easily past the AlphaTauri using a lot of ERS, and now we're on the back of the 2 Red Bull cars, and Verstappen looks to overtake Ricciardo now instead. Bottas, Bottas with a big step out on the rear end. He slowed up himself, and Verstappen, this is such a hectic lap 1. We're somehow up into P4 now. Ricciardo P3. How on earth has that all happened then? So we've got ahead of one of the Red Bulls, one of the Mercedes cars, and a Ferrari. We really just ticked off every single team, at least one car. And, I mean, this is why. This is Bottas into the hairpin on the exit. Look at that for an AI mistake. Massive tank slapper for him, which is very odd because these tyres won't be worn. They'll be new medium tyres, I'm guessing. So very odd for him to have such a massive rear end issue on board Ricciardo. You can see very clearly from him that rear end step out, and Ricciardo just nips it through to the inside. It's kind of unfortunate for Verstappen because he was looking to overtake his teammate Ricciardo on the left here, and in doing so kind of boxes himself in because he doesn't know that obviously Bottas is about to lose his rear end, but he does, and he can't go anywhere here because he's not going to go off circuit, I don't think. So he just gets caught up, and so we're able to overtake him and Bottas in one foul swoop. And it just so happened that we got the AlphaTauri of Gasly and Vettel literally just before on that back straight. So that was a real amazing opening lap for us there. Basically got from P7 to P4. But, you know, at the very start of that lap, it looked like I was going to struggle to just keep up with Gasly. But in the end, really decent stuff. And now we're actually pressurizing Daniel Ricciardo using the ERS overtake button very liberally at the moment because we've got plenty of charge left. And it seems like this car is harvesting so much in the brake zones at this stage of the GP. And here we go, using a lot of overtake mode, literally all the way into turn one, powering down the inside there. It's so close on the left-hand side. You can fit a piece of paper between my left front tyre and Ricciardo's side pod. We get the job done on the Aussie. A little bit wide though and deep into this corner. A bit of understeer, washes over in first gear, and he's able to get through to the inside, and so it's going to continue on. A really lovely battle brewing with Ricciardo, but can we finish this off and get the job done and squeeze him out fully through the next right-hander? First gear, get the nose turned in, then on the exit, get the power down as early as we can and try and scrub off on the right, on the left-hand side, get the racing line done, and we are up into P3. But, you know, good moves there. Not surprised though, because of course on paper, in theory, we should be quicker than the Red Bull car. We are, you know, on the R&D index faster than them, so I'm not surprised at getting Ricciardo. What I am surprised about though is Bottas at the moment overtaking Ricciardo, but for how long are we going to be able to keep Bottas behind? But because at the moment, this is like, I think, a lap or two after I overtook Ricciardo. So Bottas has actually taken a long while, in my opinion, to catch back up to the Red Bull car. And now you can see Ricciardo struggling in this Grand Prix. Verstappen easily gets past him there, so the two Red Bulls just swap positions. But yeah, for some reason, Bottas seems quite slow right now. And I think he's just, I don't know, he's got that tyre issue. He just seems a bit slow. I think he's definitely got maybe some mechanical issues that we've not heard of yet from our engineer. Meanwhile, Sainz is struggling a little bit behind Sergio Perez. I think we're definitely not seeing the exact same Sainz we've seen in previous races due to that crash he had at Vietnam. I think that knocked down his points a little bit in terms of overall, and also we didn't train him as much maybe between the races. Having said that though, as we move on later, a lap later I think this is, and he is now starting to pressurize Perez, gets a great run here, and you know what, he might fancy it with the ERS. Down the inside he goes, and Sainz with a lovely move on the inside will turn to the outside for the next corner. I think the AlphaTauri though is still there. Perez keeping it in. Yes, look at that. They're literally sidewall to sidewall on the tyres there. Really great battle between these two AI cars, and Sainz gets it and gets the move done, and now has some clean air to work with to close up to Sebastian Vettel in that Ferrari, and who's on tail ending this train that is spearheaded by Valtteri Bottas. I talked about just before that he looks a little bit slow, and now I can confirm at this point now in the Grand Prix, this is like a further lap or two later in this first stint, my engineer Jeff has said that Bottas has a mechanical issue, so he's going to be slow. So now Verstappen, you're seeing him come back. Obviously, Bottas overtook Ricciardo, but now Verstappen, the other Red Bulls, having a go at him, easy overtaking him, and so Bottas goes down the order. So that's massive for the championship, remember, because Bottas has won the first 3 races of this season, so that'll be massive advantage for Hamilton to see Bottas go down the order. Meanwhile, you can see Ricciardo struggling yet again as Gasly pressurizes him in the AlphaTauri. Although Gasly comes in, Gasly was the only man in the top 10 to start on the soft tyres, I might add, so he's on a very weird 2-stop. I don't know why AlphaTauri have made him do that, because his teammates not, but that's why he was maybe quite quick at the very start in that opening lap, because he obviously had a tyre advantage. But we move through now on towards lap number 11. Verstappen now has closed up to us, so he's given us a bit more of a fight than Ricciardo ever did in the Red Bull. We go defensive to the inside there. Easy does it, use some ERS mode to also counteract that. A lot of understeer. I must say, I definitely lose a lot of time in the first sector, but I gain it all back in sector 3 with so much ERS use, because I just mentioned it already with the harvesting. We have that minor ERS upgrade that we had. It came in last episode of Vietnam, but I didn't really notice it that much around Hanoi. But around here at Shanghai, I'm noticing every single break zone we're harvesting so much ERS, and it means I'm able to use a good like 20% of it just on the back straight in Sector 3. So although we're losing time in Sector 1 consistently to every car pretty much, because I just can't get my head around of how to take the corner basically as best I can with this car, we're gaining it back in Sector 3. Meanwhile, whilst we've been talking about all of that, we're getting through the first round of pit stops now. Sainz has come in before me, and he's jumped Vettel in the pit stop phase there. So that's very good news for us as a team. He's now behind Ricciardo, and then he's behind this man, Valtteri Bottas. Then you've got the AlphaTauri of Gasly closing up to Max Verstappen, who's there on a set of hard tyres there. So Verstappen is really pushed away from Bottas. You saw that gap that was there on track. So that's how slow the Mercedes car was, at least in the hands of the Finn. Obviously, Hamilton so far has been dominating this GP in first place. Technically, he's now back into first. We did have first place for a little bit there, but we're now in for our pit stop for a set of hard tyres at the end of the Grand Prix. The question is, where is Verstappen going to be? I have stretched this stint on purpose because obviously I don't really like the hard tyres that much. And around Shanghai as well, they're not particularly amazing to drive. It's a bit of a slow pit stop as well, 3.1. And by the time we come out, Verstappen is just going to come through there and overtake us. So we are down to P4, but crucially, we have 2 laps, fresher hard tyres. And I also know we have a car that can beat Red Bull. It's just a case of sticking with it, closing back up, using the ERS, like I just mentioned before, to good use, that 20% usage on the back straight, and eventually we should be able to close up to him. And even on that same lap, the out lap, we came out on the hard tyres. We're already gaining on him down the back straight there, and Verstappen with a big error. Oh, he's lost the rear end. Verstappen with a huge mistake there. What is it with the AI today? And that corner, the rear end steps out. We're now trying to go side by side with Verstappen. He just about gives us enough room to work with in the final corner, but now it's a great little scrap there. It's a drag race to turn 1. He's got DRS open, I think it is, so he was obviously behind me at the detection point, but we're now on the inside. We've got the line, but also remember the Red Bull and every car pretty much is so much better through this corner than I am, getting the traction and getting on the throttle so much earlier. So Verstappen is going to come back through, and he's got a great exit there, so we're going to have to go defensive to the inside. Verstappen goes the long way round, and on the braking, he's got it round on the outside. You can see his front wing just come into view there. A little bit of oversteer for us. Also on the exit, have to use a bit of an overtake mode, try and make sure we can stay ahead, and then we just try and look behind us and then cut in on the racing line to get the position there. But it all started from a huge mistake, very similar to the one that Bottas made. So yeah, I don't know, the tyre wear's not, again, it's with Bottas, there was no tyre wear at the start of that stint because it was lap 1, and then here again, you know, he's only been on those tyres for 3. I know I said I had fresher tyres than him, but it's only a 3-lap difference, so I don't know why his rear end stepped out that much. I guess it might be the curb, maybe the exit curb, you know, the apex curb they hit. Maybe they're getting on the power too early through the curb, maybe that's offsetting the rear end. But yeah, for some reason there, that really helped us out. I'm not complaining, but it was a massive gift for us because it was going to take us at least a good 2-3 more laps to catch up to him properly if it wasn't for that mistake. But now, later on in the Grand Prix, lap 22, Verstappen comes back at me, now playing a bit of a wily old fox move here as we brake early on purpose and just get behind him because I know I have the better car in a straight line. The Red Bull is the second slowest car in a straight line on engine power, and I am up there as the 4th best, I think it is, or 3rd best. So we have the power to do this, use a lot of ERS. Like I said before already, we're harvesting so much, it would seem, in sectors 1 and 2. So we're going to walk past him with DRS open, stop using ERS as we do it, and we can take the racing line as well and get back up into P3. So easy does it. I think we have Verstappen covered off pretty much. I say that, we've got 6 laps to go, but I think we have him covered off. So it's just a case of just keep at it, basically, try and do the best job of defending against him in Sector 1 when he does attack us, and then in Sector 3, using the ERS to good use. Meanwhile, lap 26 now, Bottas is finally speeding back up in this Grand Prix and looking like his former self from the first 3 races as he sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix behind in P5. Meanwhile, then, this is on towards the last lap of the Grand Prix, actually, as we move on swiftly through this Grand Prix. Hanoi. Not too much actually that actually was happening, I've got to admit, in this Grand Prix, apart from the strategies playing out basically. But apart from this, as Sainz is having a look now at Ricciardo, so we've not seen too much of Sainz. He overtook Vettel early on in the pit stop phase, but now eventually he's going to try and make a move on the Red Bull car, pretty much proving my point that we are quicker than Red Bull as Sainz goes round the outside, gets the position, and it's him up into P6. He had a very slow start. It was a bit of a shame. If he qualified higher and maybe was a little bit more punchier in lap 1, he may have been right up here, you know, but I think that comes with the crash he had at Vietnam and his stats going down a little bit. Maybe he just wasn't, you know, his awareness maybe went down and his racecraft stats went down a little bit, so maybe he wasn't able to navigate lap 1 as well as I did, of course. But in the end then, Lewis Hamilton will win this Chinese Grand Prix. That is massive for the championship because it was 3 wins in a row for Bottas. This is big to try and stop the momentum and to allow Hamilton to maybe punch back a little bit in the Drivers' Championship. Meanwhile, Leclerc second place, fair play. We couldn't really match him. We at least got one of the Ferrari cars and Vettel, but we come through for our second podium, and it's in a row as well. So we have taken the momentum from Hanoi and taken it through to this Grand Prix. But to be fair, this is where I think we should have been. If you look at the R&D chart, P3 makes sense. We couldn't quite get Leclerc. Need to still improve the car to fully match Ferrari right now, but we're faster than Red Bull. We beat Verstappen. Sainz beat Ricciardo. Happy days, I think.
It's a performance to be proud of from our Chinese Grand Prix winners today. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a drive with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
So back-to-back third places, 2 podiums in a row. Is this maybe where the consistency begins now for us? Because obviously you guys know me, a good characteristic for me is in career modes, once we get the car kind of where it ought to be, I can be quite consistent of where we place it. So will this be the start of a string of podiums? I hope so. That would be very, very nice. But obviously I'm not kind of, you know, taking it for granted because I've seen little spurts, you know, the way AlphaTauri especially improved this race and also in qualifying how good Red Bull and Ferrari looked. I'm still not completely sure. You know, we need to make sure we can keep up R&D upgrades because last season, remember, it was at this sort of point up towards the British Grand Prix where we started to lose a lot of pace because other teams were out upgrading us. So we need to keep on at it and make sure we keep up with them in R&D terms because right now it's great. Right now we are podium contenders, but that could change very easily if we don't continue upgrading and continue the pace with them, basically. Because if AlphaTauri can upgrade like that and be, you know, threatening the top 10 like that in one race, and you just never know. But as we go through the end, then we are comfortably beating Albon now. Racing Point have really fallen away after the first 2 episodes, which is a shame, really, but it's good for me in terms of beating Albon thoroughly. You know, after that scare of when he got a podium on the first race, I thought it was going to be very, very difficult, but no, we've got him. 1.31 million in the bank. Decent, obviously, bonus payout, and for once, I don't get 0. For once, I don't get minus 50 on the damages there. I get 0, so I actually get my 100k for the base payouts. We're up to 8.1 million. So overall, can't complain. Like I said, podium for us. Both of us respectively beat our Red Bull kind of counterparts, basically me and Verstappen, Sainz and Ricciardo there. So can't complain in that kind of department. So all in all, very decent episode. We move on and try and continue this momentum further into the next episode. But guys, if you did enjoy this one, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.